Hello and welcome to another Atypical Philosopher video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is a Ukraine war frontline update, and it's for the 23rd of November 2022. Let's get straight to it. Fairly quiet night on the fronts, really. Ukrainian figures were over 410 liquidated personnel, 2 tanks, 5 APCs, 5 artillery systems, and 3 vehicles. As I keep saying, no drones, no cruise missiles, which shows they probably have a lack of them, the Russians. And in fact, that's, I think, what the UK MOD intelligence have said as well. So they must be getting their information from me, of course. Let's have a quick look to see what the UK MOD say. Since September, Russia have likely launched hundreds of Iranian-manufactured uncrewed aerial vehicles, UAVs, against Ukraine. These have been a mixture of one-way attack, OWA UAVs, more traditional reusable armed systems. Russia has largely used these weapons against tactical military targets and the Ukrainian electricity grid. However, recently Russian commanders likely also wanted Iranian-sourced UAVs to prioritize medical facilities as targets of opportunity. We'll come onto that, and strike them with guided munitions if identified. Russia likely conceived of the UAV campaign to make up for its severe shortage of cruise missiles, but the approach has had limited success. Most drones launched have been neutralized. No OWA UAV strikes have been publicly reported since around 17th of November. Russia has likely very nearly exhausted its current stock, but will probably seek resupply. Russia can probably procure drones from overseas more rapidly than it can manufacture new cruise missiles domestically. Absolutely 100%. They're certainly running low. Okay, here is news last night that Ukraine tried to hit a power station in Balaclava in Crimea. Sorry, the Russian occupation authorities had said that they were all shot down near or en route to the facility. A bit of fire there from probably a drone that didn't quite reach its target on the seafront, I think that is. But yeah, so the Ukrainians are, putting in some effort into taking out places on Crimea. Talking about hospitals, 2 people died when Russia. Oh no, sorry, this is shelling of Kupiansk up on the Kupiansk line. So this is nothing I've reported recently. Kupiansk has been hasn't really featured, but now shelling apartment blocks and polyclinics. So, that's nice. And here is Russia's bombed another maternity hospital, this time 20 kilometers northeast of Zaporizhia. The strike came in Vilnyansk, and 1 baby was killed, 2 days old. A woman was reportedly in labor at the time, but it seems she and a doctor were rescued from the rebel. Okay, and this is pretty important. I'm going to talk about this in my extra video, talking about how Ukraine desperately need ranged rockets. This is an interesting development on a number of levels, as in TRLG-230 has the same legs range as the GMLRS-ER. So this is, I think, an American rocket launch or system, or certainly rocket, and this is Turkish, this other one. So Ukraine now has multiple sources of guided rocket deep strike capability. This means political pressure by any one supplier to negotiate land for peace. This is referring to big development. President of Turkish Defense Industry Agency, TRLG 230, can actually hit targets 150 kilometers away. So at the moment, 84 kilometers is the range of HIMARS, and that's the longest range. But we've seen Jankoy hit in north of Crimea, and wondering how it could be that they've got some of these already. Showing the precision of GLSDBs, also with 150 kilometer range. So you can see the range here just gets that Jankoy, the place that was hit, I think, the other night, just around about there. I think we now know what hit Jankoy. And this is interesting. So I'm going to dwell on this just for a second. This is really good advertising for Turkish high-tech weapons for nations on the West export control list. Another possibility we are seeing is a cover story for use of Luke's 300mm Vilka M. So this was the Ukrainian rocket launch system that I don't know, that we haven't really seen, but it was, I think there were maybe some at the beginning of the war, but they could be building them. Not 100% sure what exactly is going on there. Whether we are looking at Turkish TRLG 230, US GMLRS ER, or an indigenous Ukrainian Vilka M, a missile with a reach shown in a map means all of Russia's truck, train, and sea of Azov port logistics north of Crimea in southern Ukraine are under AFU's thumb. And to just go on to this Turkey, the first recorded use of the Turkish TRL G230 MRLS in Ukraine by the Ukrainians. It was what Oryx wrote about these deliveries to Ukraine a few days ago. So these have 150-kilometer range. It's not going to be a game changer, or is it? I mean, it really could be a game changer. It just depends how many of these they have, how many of these missiles they have. So as per Oryx, Turkey has provided Ukraine with an unknown number of Roketsan MCL, MLRS, and TRL G230 rockets broadly comparable to the GMLRS, but they have laser guidance and can hit targets painted by the TB2. So you have the Bayraktar drone up ahead, and it indicates the target, and the missile then hits the target. So you need both these things going. MCL is a modular system that will replace all other MLRS Turkey operates. So that's as far as Turkey's concerned. And this is the other one, the US one, the GLSDB, a Saab Boeing co-production. We are imminently shortly expecting contracts on that, Saab President and CEO Michael Johansson told analysts on the 28th of October. So this is that missile. Now, this has loads of advantages. It's got 150-kilometer range, can hit targets from different angles, precision so high it can hit the target within a radius of 1 meter. Right. Just it can operate in all weather 24/7. It can avoid terrain such as mountains. It's got cave breaching capability, launchable from hidden or protected positions, programmable impact and delay fusing for deep penetration to proximity height of burst, and laser variant for moving target capability. That's massive. That's huge. Obviously, they're going to be super expensive, and we don't know whether they're there, how soon they could be there, if the contract is signed, whatever. Not sure, but all of this stuff is great news for Ukraine. Okay, Defmon says the lowest amount of shelling took place on the front line yesterday. So he records every day the shelling. I have never reported this before, but this just is quite interesting because there wasn't a lot. Not quite sure why there is this change of intensity. Okay, let's get to front lines. So let's go to the northeast, to Kupiansk, down to Svatove-Kreminna. That's from here. Here's Kupiansk. That was shelled last night, down to Svatove-Kreminna there. Okay, looking at it on my map, we have no change on the front lines at all, really. Just repelled attacks. Apparently, the Ukrainians attacked in Kuzmivka, and that was repelled by the Russians. At least that's what they say. Here's the Rybar in English. Ukrainians storm 92nd Brigade stormtroops tried to attack near Kuzmivka. Russian forces preemptively struck the group, who retreated in Stanwikivka. Russian artillery struck the Ukrainian 14th Brigade group with foreign contractors, so mercenaries. Several vehicles were destroyed, according to them. That's Stelmakivka there. Shelling onto that settlement and troops, but basically, same as it has been over the last few days. No movement. There's been rain up here, so it's really muddy and very difficult to move. Hence, there doesn't seem to be any particular movement. As Noel report says, in Kupiansk, Svatove-Kreminna, and Pavlivka, nothing's changed. Therefore, no maps of this area because literally nothing's changed. We will be back tomorrow. So this was him last night, showing that not a lot had changed. Really along almost all the front, well, in fact, all of the front. I am going to, however, talk a little bit about Bakhmut and just northeast of Bakhmut. So again, usual stuff in Spirnia, Berestova, down to Bilorivka and the other Bilorivka as well. Let's just go to Soledar because there's a few bits and pieces I want to show you. Although just before I get there, it's worth saying that there's a lot of heavy fighting. I think the Russians are saying it's really active around. I'm going to try it, but Verkhonokamyanka. Something like that. So that's why I showed you some geolocated footage the other day. It's happening around there quite a bit. Okay, let's go to Soledar. So here we've got Bakhmut, which is incredibly active at the moment. And just to the northeast of Bakhmut, we have Bakhmutske and Soledar. And I just want to show you a couple of bits of footage that I've seen and I've geolocated, at least I think I have. I'm pretty sure about this one because other people have done that as well. But this one was entirely myself, um, uh, just to show you what things are like. So this is Bakhmutske, right? And what you are going to see is you're going to see drone footage from about here looking down, or it could be, yeah, it could be about, it's actually looking down this road. So drone footage is looking down this road, and all these buildings, the nice sort of green trees and what have you, you can just have a look at and see what this settlement looks like in the middle of a war zone, and how absolutely basically destroyed it is heartbreaking. And then the other thing to notice is, yeah, quite often you get music on these videos. And this is a pro-Russian video, obviously, and it's got, I won't play the music, but it's got this kind of like, you know, rock music, as if that this is really cool, this is awesome. Now, I can understand that from a Ukrainian point of view, if they're taking out like Russian tanks and things like that. But if you're destroying buildings in a place that you are hoping to liberate, right, that you are supposedly the liberators coming in to free this area from Nazis, then that kind of video is deeply misplaced, like from a PR point of view, in my opinion. Anyway, here it is. I'll start with a little bit of the music, then I'll turn it off. So the idea is that this is all really cool, what they're doing. Look at what they've done. This is Bakhmutske, right? Look at these buildings. This is so just to remind you, that is looking down this street there to this is the building. That is the one that's got the blue circle around it, just from a different angle, from the almost from the front there. That's got the blue circle around it, and then there's this almost H building next to it. I will show that. So this is the almost H building there, and that's that first one that I put the mouse on. And oops, sorry, that's my not being able to fill my fingers again. Sorry. Just look at every single building there. Just look at that. It's like Aleppo or something in Syria. This is just heartbreaking. That this was a human settlement where people lived and had their lives, and now the Russians are attempting to liberate it by completely destroying it. So anyway, this is Bakhmutske, or Bakhmutska, I'm not quite sure, and it's just being shelled horrendously. So when we're talking about, there's lots of fighting going on in Bakhmutske, or in Soledar, or in Bakhmut even, you know, this is what it looks like. That is the reality of this. Okay, the second one I'm going to show you is, and I'm not 100% sure here, but I think this is the case. So this is just Soledar. There's a big rail station there, big transport hub by the looks of it, and you take this railway up, and there's a bit of a bend in the railway, and then you have a few settlements here. So I could change the direction here, but I'm not going to. So the drone is sort of based over here, and you see it look down this way, and there's a red roofed house there that I think is one I'm just about to show you. But again, I could be wrong. So the red roofed house is there. Here is that group of houses just in the middle, and there's a railway line just going up here. So railway line going up there, red roofed house, houses in the middle. This is this little area of Soledar there. Let's go and see what the Russians are doing there. Same sort of music to sort of celebrate the grrr and the awesomeness of destroying huge amounts of, you know, property and land, and yeah. So this is what Soledar looks like. Again, these are houses that are, for all intents and purposes, completely destroyed. And if they're not already destroyed, then days like this show that they pretty much will be destroyed. That's it, next to that house with the red roof. And then I'm not quite sure where this is, probably somewhere nearby in the Soledar area, but these are high rise, or those are higher buildings, should I say. Not quite sure where that is. Anyway, those two bits of footage just show what is going on there, and I think it gives you, again, I like to give you some context or some kind of visual appreciation of what it looks like to say, oh, there's a lot of activity, there's shelling going on in Soledar and Bakhmutske, they're fighting hard for that. Because also within that, there are, there are people hiding in and around those houses and shooting at each other and all sorts. I've seen some other footage of Russians around houses like that in that area. I don't know exactly where, but firing shoulder held grenade launchers, actually. But there you go. So really heavy fighting, but no change. And in fact, there's not a lot of change anywhere along here. No map changes. Russia keeps throwing forces into the Opitny area around Soledar, Bilorivka, Yakovlivka area. Dumb cannon fodder again and again. Weather conditions make it hard for Russia to advance while also having big losses in fighting terms. Both sides are having big losses here. And then we move on down to Avdivka. Oh, I wish my fingers did what I want them to do. I'm in the wrong job. So as we move further down south to Avdivka, which is pretty much the same as yesterday, attempts to encircle it, which is very slow going. It's quite open ground here. When we come down here, there's this tiny settlement of Nelsky here, which there's definite further confirmation that Russians have it, certainly to around where I've got it there, I think, up to maybe this corner of that hedgerow there, or those tree lines, sorry. So they're creeping towards Nevelsky. We'll see how it goes, but it is really open, and these are all, as I said, fortified tree lines there with trenches and whatnot. And as we come further down, we come to Marinka, and apparently, Marinka is a pretty. There's a lot going on in Marinka, and the Russians are making slight advances there. Let's see what the Institute for the Study of Wars say. Several Russian sources claim that Russian forces made advances in Marinka and that Ukrainian forces suffered heavy losses and are slowly retreating from positions in the city. Russian mill bloggers claimed that Russian forces have also cut 2 of the 3 supply roads into Marinka. A Russian source claimed on November the 21st that Russian aviation regularly strikes the position of Ukrainian forces in Marinka, and they've claimed that Russian advances in the area are slow because the surrounding landscape is mainly comprised of open fields with little cover, which is absolutely right that it is. If you look around here, it's all open fields, and there's a grey zone going on around here, as according to Rybar. So there's a lot of fighting and probably entrenchments in these fields, same as it is around the Avdivka area. You've got, plenty of opportunity to dig in along tree lines and what have you. But the Russian air attacks are frequent around here and hitting key places. So the Russians say they've cut off 2 out of the 3 roads. What those roads are, I'm not sure. You can see that they, or was it one of the 3 roads or 2 of the 3 roads? Cut 2 of 3 supply roads. So that's pretty problematic. You've got a road coming in here to the north. You've got one coming in here, and probably sort of around here. So they certainly would have got fire control over here, and may have fire control up here, and leaving this main one coming in there. It would be my guess, but who knows? So Marinka is one to look out for. It's been increasingly problematic for the Ukrainians over the last few days. And then down to Pavlivka, where it's the meat grinder again. No change there that's worthy of particular note. And that really brings us on. So, actually, one thing I forgot to say yesterday, and to just go back to the Bakhmut area before we go to Kherson, is that apparently the Ukrainians have lost some high-ranking officials down there, and it's not been good. In the past week alone, 2 Ukrainian battalion commanders and 1 Ukrainian brigade commander were killed in Bakhmut. More specifically, a battalion commander and a brigade commander of the 53rd Brigade and a battalion commander of the 243rd Separate Battalion. So it's not been a good week. So there are such heavy losses on both sides, and talk often about this being a meat grind for the Russians, but it will be, of course, for the Ukrainians as well. And there's, talk about, along this front, and you can use Marinka as an example, is that the Ukrainians are defending here, and the war in Ukraine was talking about this morning about what's the strategy here, because it seems to be you are basically trading time for a lot of troops. So, which is fine if you've got some kind of idea of what you're going to do. Is it just trading time for other offensives elsewhere to work and cause the Russians to go on the back foot and sue for peace? Is this trading time for something to happen around here? Is this just forever going to be a defensive around here, around all these sort of places? And it is just basically you are positioned there with an expectation that you are, possibly one of those people that's going to be traded for time. Really tough. I mean, who would want to be in a war? But I think there's some interesting thought to be had around, what are the intentions of the Ukrainians here? These are sort of tactically quite important in a kind of tactical PR sense. Like if you lose Avdivka and you lose Bakhmut, then that will be seen as a big sort of win in the psyche of the Russians. But is it worth it? Is it worth piling all those troops into defending those places? Okay, last thing, Kherson. Not a lot to say other than the Russians have been heavily shelling the Ukrainians on the right bank of the Dnipro here. So there's been lots of talk about places hit. Kherson the city itself was smoking this morning. It's being attacked, I think, as we speak. But there have been a couple of interesting things to report. So no map changes in Kherson. Again, Natalia Gumenyuk said the fighting was underway in the Kinburn Spit and it was a grey zone, but due to operational silence can't reveal more details. The Ukrainians are softening Russian supply routes in Kherson and Crimea. So they are hitting places behind the Russian lines to soften them up, something that they do obviously to great effect. And the ISW says a little bit about the Kinburn Spit. So the Kinburn Spit is only 4 kilometers across the strait from Ochakiv and allows for control of the entrance to the Dnieper and southern Bug rivers, as well as the Mykolaiv and Kherson city ports, which is what I said yesterday. Russian forces used positions on the Kinburn Spit to conduct routine missile and artillery strikes on Ukrainian positions in Ochakiv, southern Mykolaiv Oblast. So just to let you know where Ochakiv is and what we're talking about here. Here's the Spit, and they were striking Ochakiv, which is there. Southern Mykolaiv Oblast and other areas along the Ukrainian-controlled Black Sea coast. The Kinburn Spit is also out of the 25-kilometer range of 152mm artillery that Russian forces have accumulated on the left east bank of the Dnipro River in Kherson Oblast, which means that the Russians can't hit Ukrainian forces here because they've positioned artillery all the way over here, and it doesn't quite have the range to hit up here, which gives the Ukrainians sort of free rein to do a few things on the Spit. Control of the Kinburn Spit would allow Ukrainian forces to relieve Russian strikes on the Ukrainian-controlled Black Sea coast, increase naval activity in the area, and conduct potential operations to cross to the left or east bank in the Kherson Oblast under significantly less Russian artillery fired compared to the crossing of the Dnipro River. There is also talk that the Ukrainians are crossing the Dnipro here because in some places the Russians have pulled their defensive lines slightly further back. And I talked about that previously, how there's this 10 to 15 kilometer buffer zone here, when in certain places they just aren't right on the edge of the river or even particularly nearby. And so there is talk that the Ukrainians have ventured across the river at various times, as you would probably expect special forces to be doing stuff like that. Anyway, there you go. No change really in any territory, but a few bits to note, and be very interesting to see whether Ukraine now have use of 150-kilometer ranged missiles that will allow them to hit all the way sort of down here and all the way along here, and basically most of the Russian areas, apart from mainland Crimea probably, and the back of the Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts up here. So very important if that is indeed the case. Anyway, thanks so much for your support. Please like, subscribe, and share. There's Buy Me a Coffee, PayPal, and YouTube. Thanks. My extra video today will be on my new YouTube channel, which is at ATP Geo. Please check out the 2 ones I've got there at the moment. I will be doing alternate days, putting my extra videos there. So today is a day for an extra video. We'll do that for a few more days, and then I'll move them all over here. So please come and check it out. Anyway, speak to you later.